introduce our webinar. As I've mentioned, it's building a run of mine or a run of mine where we're going to apply loss and dilution, and we're going to use one of our product called MineScape for engineering. And today your presenter, it's Ripfumelo, or also known as Rips. I'm a mining engineer. I've been with Datamine for a few years and now, and I'm focusing on the coal side of the business in Datamine, or looking at the East Coast business that we currently have. For our webinar today, what we'll cover, we'll look at the overview of Datamine solutions, so you get to know what solutions we have in Datamine. We look at building an in-situ model, building a run of model, and we'll have our closing remarks. And after that, we'll go straight to the Q&A session. So this webinar will take about 20 minutes of your time, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So thank you for joining us. So this is showing you an integrated solutions for the entire mining value chain. As you can see, Datamine have solution in the exploration stages, in the geology stage, in the planning stage. And for today's webinar, we are focusing on the planning stage, where we are looking at MineScape for surface engineering. We also have other technology or product that covers the production. So you're looking at your reconciliation, tracking of your material, all your assets that you have. From mine to port. We also have solutions that are focusing on our LIMS or laboratories, that has to do with compliance, that has to do with accurate recording of data and being able to make those critical decisions in the mining environment. We also have technologies or product that are looking at sustainability or ESG, so looking at connecting people, data, and being able to make sure our businesses are complying to what the government want, are complying to the regulations. So just a quick overview of what we'll be looking at today. So we'll be looking at building a run of modeling. And before we go into to the software, just want to give you a quick overview what we'll be focusing on. As you know, the geologists are going to build the geological modeling, and they'll hand it over to us as the engineers. And when they hand it over to us as the engineers, we are going to apply the loss and also the dilution. That's where you're going to build the in-situ model and build the runoff model, applying loss and dilution. And that's our focus today, being able to apply those mining laws, being able to apply the minimum mining mineable interval, as you can see here, and being able to apply different quality cut-offs, so until we get to our mineable interval. So that's what we'll be looking at. And I will head straight to the software to do a live demo. Thank you. Okay, so this is how MineScape looks like. As you can see, just already open it. I have my topography in here. I have my geological modeling with different seams that we have. So this is what we currently have. And this model is coming from the geologist, as I've mentioned. But the next step will be for me to go and build our in-situ model and our runoff model. And we'll show you that and how easy it is to do that. So before we proceed any further, I created just a simple cross section to show you what we are talking about, and I'd like to show you that. So as you can clearly see here, we have a cross section of our model. We have the overbed then. We have the first coal seam, and this coal seam has patching in here. We have the interbed then, and we also have seam number 6. So we have two seams that we're going to mine in this one. But this one has the patching, which is going to act as our dilution because this coal will be diluted. And this patching is like less than 20 centimeters, so we can mine everything as one. And when we look at how it's going to play when we go and apply our mineable interval, so you can see now we still have the overbed. Then we have applied our mining interval of saying we're going to mine this including that parting because it's so small, but that parting we need to be able to calculate that dilution and know what the dilution is for that interval. And we have the next interval that we have, which is sim6 that we are going to mine. And in this case, we have sim6 that we're going to look at and sim5. Right, cool. So I'll proceed and go to the software. So in this case, we're going to go use what we call the multipath reserve. So this allows you to generate your runoff model or your in-situ model where you're able to apply the loss and dilution as I've mentioned. So I'll click on this apply form. So the form will come through as you can see. So the first thing will be to set up your geological model. This is the geological model that I'm using, and there's a polygon that I'm focusing on in my area saying we are only going to be running this for mine A. So let's just quickly show you with respect to the topography so we can see where each area has been covered. I'm just going to do this. Okay, I'm going to take these up. Yep. Okay, so this is the area that we are looking at. So we're just going to run our model in this section. And that is the part where I have to select the polygon that I'm looking at. And you can be able to apply the recovery in here. So you can define your recovery. And so I want a recovery of 95%. So you're able to define that recovery. In this section, you're able to define your geological model, which you have defined called RPS. And I'm just going to call this mine A, and I've defined my top surface and bottom surface. I'm going to use the topography and then the RLM 200. And we move on to defining the intervals that we have. So you can have different intervals. In this case, we have sim5 and sim6, and we can have multiple intervals. You can have a mineable interval, but in our case, a mineable interval was defined as sim5 and sim6. You can be able to add as many intervals as you wish. And then we move on to define the qualities that we want to output in our reports, in our runoff modeling. So we want to output the density, ash, CV, and moist, and we are going to build our in-situ modeling, and our in-situ modeling will be called in-situ res. So you can just click on build. The software will quickly build that for us, honoring all the rules that we have set up, honoring the dilution cutoff that have been defined when we're building our quality model. So that is done. We have a table that I'm going to open for us. We have in-situ res. Okay, where are you? There it is. Just double click it, minimize that. So you can see it output the sim. It tells you if it's a resource overburden, the total volume, the total tonnages, and if we scroll towards the end, we'll be able to see the the relative densities, the ash, the CV, the moist based on the cutoff that were defined. So that's what you're able to see. You have this table showing you for each and every interval, telling you if it's a resource or if it's an overburden, or meaning if it's waste. So it's able to give you that. And it's using this. So it's an Excel file that you can open in Excel. And the next step will be to take this information. Once we have our in situ, we're saying, let's proceed and move on to the next part where we're going to apply our loss and dilution to different intervals that we have already defined. So in this case, we have two intervals, sim5 and 6. So we can come and define the loss. Say the loss, I want 0.2. And what kind of loss is that? So I'm just going to make this bigger. So you can define and say the loss should be a thickness or a percentage of that sim. So you can, in this case, I'm using a thickness of 0.2 meters, did the same for sim 6. And you can also use a dilution surface. So if you have a surface that represents your dilution, as you have seen in my previous one, I'll have a surface that represent my dilution. I can use that surface and I can still define my dilution default, and I choose if it's thickness or if it's an added percent or total percent. So you're able to define that, and you can define for as many intervals as you want. So that will be what we have done. And we move on to the control saying what kind of model do we want to output? As you said, for this exercise, or this webinar, we're gonna look at the run of model. We have already done the in-situ model, so we could generating the run of model. Yeah, the run of model. All we need to is to define the run of modeling. We're outputting it. You can give it a name, ROM, res, not accumulated and accumulated. So it's going to generate two tables for you. And you have an option to run all. So it's going to build all the tables at one go. Or you have an option to build one table at a time. So I can build the first table, that one. So the whole idea of giving you the flexibility to build one table at a time is being able to spot if you get any issues or any errors, you can be able to go and say, this is where the error is coming from. So it gives you the flexibility to be able to diagnose where the problem might be coming from. So as you can see, it's done quick. So we have a ROM res, not accumulated, ROM res, ROM res, not accumulated. Okay, gonna come ROM res, not accumulated. That's the one. Okay. So if we open this, it's not accumulated. And I'll just scroll. So you can see you have SIM 5, SIM 6. So all the SIMs that you have, the total tonnages. And if you scroll through the table towards some of the end, we can see the relative density, the ash content in that CV, and we can see the loss volume. How much are we losing in that same? How much dilution is happening, and what is the run of mass? So if we define the product mass, which we'll do in future, we'll be able to say this is our product mass. But in this case, we are interested in the run of mass, and this is the raw. So it's able to do those calculations for us in the background and give us this not accumulated report. And we can proceed and generate the accumulated report, which will summarize everything nicely for us. So we can go and say, build the accumulated one. It's busy running that quickly. Done. ROM res accum. There it is accumulated. So you can see for SIM 5 and SIM 6, so you have SIM 5 in this case, that is SIM 5. You can see the total tonnages, the total volume. And as I said, if we scroll, we can see the average RD, the average CV, and we can see what is the total loss volume, the dilution volume, and the total ROM mess in this case. So you're able to build those reports. And if you want to go a step further, it also gives you a flexibility to output it into a special report where you can say, I want to see interval records or I want to see block records. So if you already have blocks, you're running this for your mining blocks, you can use the option to see block records. But in this case, we're going to use the interval and you choose what is it that you want to output. So you can say, I want to have the total burden for my mesh or for my thicknesses, for my volume, you define all these. You can even come and say, I want to have an interval loss, interval dilution, quality areas. You can define all these so it's customizable. You just click on what is it that you want to see in this report, and you can group your intervals as SIM 5 and 6 and define the qualities that you wish to use and go to build. So it will generate ROM res out, build that one quickly. Okay, cool. So as I said, you have an option to run all. So you can do all the setups that we did and you go to the option of run all. It will build all those reports for you. But in this case, I did it one at a time. So it built the last one, ROM res out, ROM res out. There we have it. So you can see it's just a quick summarized version of the report. And it shows you what you have defined that you want to output. The You can see you have the overburden volume, the interburden volume, you have the total overburden. So it's showing you everything. You can see you have the dilution, the losses, the overall RD. So you're able to generate this. And you can even go a step further into this and build some of the standardized or reserve report or specialized reserve report. So you can use the standardized reserve report where you can get a summary of the qualities or the mining, what is going on in the mining. So you can be able to build all these different reports and output them. So I'll show you one that has been built. So let's look at this one. Okay, click on that. So this one will just show you for each and every, when we're doing mining blocks, it will show you for each and every mining blocks, what is the total tonnage, what is the ash content, or what is the qualities that we have to even give you the coal mass and the total burden. So it gives you these different reports. Not gonna save that. Yep, so you are able to run for all these different reports, and you have those different reports that you can be able to use. So this is how you can quickly build a run of modeling in MineScape. So I'll just quickly go back to the presentation for a recap. So at the closing remark is we're able to apply the loss and dilution using different parameters as I've showed you. You can use the thicknesses, you can use dilution surfaces, or you can use the percentage. So you have different parameters that you can use that, and you can also use the mining intervals as you have seen. We have seen 5 that at parting as we got the information from the geologist, but we are able to build our own interval. Call it sim5 with no parting, including that parting as your part of your dilution, and you generate those mining reserves or your run of reserve report and also your in-situ reserve report. So thank you for joining us today. And should you wish to contact us in future, this is my email address, my contact number, or you can go straight directly to our website at dataminesoftware.com and be able to fill in the contact us application form, and it will go through and we'll be able to assist you with your queries or to be able to answer any questions that you have.